Hello, everybody. My name is Rodcon. I'm an artist. I'm a designer. I'm an illustrator. I'm a cartoonist. But today, more than anything, I am your new art instructor. And I just want to show you guys a little bit of what I was doing yesterday. I was working on what I guess would be the first little strip that I've ever done for this. So just coming up with some panels, coming up with some fun ways to describe it, some action. So just being able to move characters around is really fun. So today, let's not go into my own personal drawing. So today, we are going to be drawing in the Book of Lessons. The Book of Lessons consists of another sketchbook where we draw and we teach how to draw cool things. So, hey, pancakes. I was just watching you on YouTube. Yes, my friends, I do have a YouTube channel too. So what do you guys want to learn today? Do you guys want to learn how to draw like the face? Do you guys want to learn how to draw the head? You guys want to learn how to draw hands? We haven't touched hands in a while. Learning how to draw hands, a lot of the times, just consists of learning where the body parts come from. Other than that, it's very, very simple to be able to draw hands going and doing different things. Just learning where they originate from tends to be the hardest part for people to learn. So maybe we'll draw hands. Victoria Trump. Hey, dude. What's up, dudette? How you doing? No questions yet, huh? Wow. Everybody is very quiet today. It's okay, we can just have a nice, quiet ASMR session. Hello, everybody. My name is Rodcon. We are going to be drawing quietly today. Fuck that. We are not doing that. We don't. No. Then people are going to be calling me like, oh, Daddy Rodcon. And I don't want that. Zaddy. The art daddy. That'd be funny. The other persona. Can someone please what? Can someone and you help draw something, different perspectives of headphones? Yeah, sure. Headphones. Well, if you want to learn to draw headphones, all you have to do is learn to draw a head real fast, right? And then you can draw your headphones on the sides. So learning how to draw headphones is about learning how to draw around your shape, okay? So if you have a shape right here, if it's a front view, it's going to be mirrored exactly the same. And it's going to be connected by a diadem. The volume can't go down from there, so it has to build up. So if this is the base of your skull, anything, any details, any sort of little raises or anything has to go up from there. You can't have it go down because otherwise it would dig into your skull, right? And that's the easy part about headphones. Once you understand where your ear is, you have to draw the shape, whatever shape you want, and then the other ear is exactly in the same place. It's not deferred, it's not moved to the side, it's exactly in the same place. So you just go around, draw it to the same place, and then you have yourself headphones. Any volume gets built up from there. Headphones tend to have some cable sometimes. Nowadays, everything's Bluetooth. But That's essentially how you would draw headphones. Find both ears, find your skull, touch it, and build up from there. So that way you can draw your headphones of all sorts. Little kitty ones. You can build ones with like cool things on the side. You can draw curvy ones. Whatever it is that you feel like. But if you don't want to draw a whole head, you don't want to learn to draw the whole head, just draw a circle. And then you're going to get 2 circles on the side. Those circles will represent your headphones going from one side to the other. Only one side is see-through and one side isn't. And if you want to try practicing doing that in all sorts of directions, you can do that. How to draw a woman. Yeah, we can draw women. I like drawing girls. But drawing women is not going to be much different than drawing a guy. It really isn't. Like, a lot of people think the anatomy is very different. Like, for some reason, people think that it's a completely different species. I don't understand why. But I will teach you how to draw really cool, awesome girls if you guys get me to 5,000 likes. I am going to coerce you into helping me get more people in this chat. And then I'll teach you the anatomy points that you need to know so that you can draw really cute girls. And with thighs, no thighs, just in general, women. It's not very difficult. It's normally just taught incredibly difficult. So it becomes really hard when you don't know what you're doing, right? But if you do know what you're doing, you can explain it really simple, and then people don't have to struggle as much. And Musi is bound to make me not be able to teach this lesson. So if you guys get me to 5,000 likes, I will give you guys the secret sauce to unlocking female anatomy. Which isn't any different than male anatomy, by the way. It's just differently proportioned. Okay? A lot of the times we think that we are very different when we're not. It's just a little tiny overlappy line different, or a little tiny thing thinner or wider, and that tends to be the difference. We're almost there. We got there. No, you guys will get there. So, to draw women, all you have to do is draw hips bigger. But to be able to draw the hips bigger, you need to learn how hips work and how to draw the hips. So, I'm going to teach you how to do it the easiest way that I know how. And it's by drawing a little snitch. What is a snitch, Rod? A snitch is this little shape. Okay, this can be round or not. This is going to give you 2 little circles attached to the bottom of a sphere. This is going to give you 2 circles that you can use to draw little cones. Those little cones can go in any direction. Okay? Those little cones can go in any absolute direction. You can get yourself really fun and silly, simple anatomy. But not just that, if you divide and carve into it, you can generate pretty cool advanced anatomy too. Okay? So what you're doing is you're simplifying the concept of the leg to a stupidly simple degree. But the concept of the connecting point is what's making it look really cool. Because understanding where the points connect is the important part of anatomy. That is the hard part, learning how the body parts connect. The actual extremities are stupidly simple. It's normally knowing how they connect back to your body. So if learning this little shape gives you access to drawing not just complex legs, but really simple legs as well, or even more complicated things like animal anatomy and all that stuff become stupidly easy. Because now you don't know, you don't have to guess where that goes. this is going to always be the leg. And as long as you learn how to connect it back to that leg, you can draw anything you want from there. And it's going to look like a leg. Hello, hey, Sarah! Sarah, we drew you. We drew you yesterday. You are part of a comic now. You want to see? You have captured Munchies. So Munchies was just like strolling every day. La, 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 la. He found some cookies. He started eating them, right? And then Bernie was out hunting dragons like he normally does, killing them brutally. And then he came home to like find that Munchies wasn't there. And he saw little breadcrumbs, so he cast a little spell to trace them, right? And then we cut to a Munchies fact. The Munchies, as he eats, he gets smaller. So he's easy to kidnap. He's like the epitome of don't take candy from strangers. He'll take candy from strangers. Right? So, target M acquired. Be careful. He will not be far behind. They seem symbiotic. Move quickly, Sarah. And then he's like, it's his pet. This is a very dangerous game we're playing at, Bix. Trust me, love. En route. Boom. So she just takes off with Munchies, right? And then there's Bernie. He's like trying to find Munchies. He's like, where are you? Where are you? Looking all over the place. And he realizes someone's taken Munchies. That's as far as I have so far. But that's my little comment. Hello to my 1, 2, 3, 4 biggest fan. How you doing? Oh, that wasn't on stream. That was just me. That was just me drawing yesterday for fun. But anyways, you guys got me to the 5,000. Let's teach you guys more about what the little snitch, how you turn that into a human, right? So if you draw a little snitch and then you draw a little egg on top of it and think about the distance like an exclamation mark. Okay? But you're just making this part fatter, like weep. And then you come up with hip bones. Okay? So if you do that and you connect these two, you get a torso. Now you draw the same legs, little tiny triangles, and you have yourself legs and a torso. Now, how do we draw the arms? The arms are going to be very, very easy. Draw this same shape on top, but make it pointy instead of making it round. You're going to get yourself the space for your head, the spacing for your arms, and this is the outside of the arm, so you just bring it back in for volume like you did with your leg. This line inside will always point to the outside of the arm. So this upper shape gives you another guideline. This upper shape with the egg, this one always guides you to the outside of your arm, giving you a very easy to follow roadmap to placing the arm in different positions. But now if I wanted to lift my arm, I can lift that line and it's gonna point to the outside of my arm. So I can just follow that around. This will always point to the outside of my arm, right? Giving you creases, and later on, it's gonna teach you how your pectoral muscles work. So it's all in steps, baby steps. But learning how they connect is the most important, right? So now, if we draw something like this with the rib cage being roughly the same size as your hip bones, you're gonna get a very generic dude with like nothing differentiating him, right? But if you make the hip bones bigger and you may keep the rib cage the same size, you get a slight curvature. So that's the only difference. You change the size of the little shapes that you were used to connect. If you make it bigger, you get a wider body. If you make it narrower, you get a narrower body. Right? So you can play around with those two shapes and come up with every single character size possible out there. You don't have to do much. Just change the size of the hip bones. And most of the time, that's the only difference you really need, outside of stylizing it in the way that you feel like, right? You get to stylize things any way you want as long as you understand how to construct them. Watching at 3:39 a.m. from the Philippines. Oh my God. That is so late. Scars? Scars are kind of like tattoos. Do you remember back in the day when you were like little and you used to like to draw on like magazines and stuff like that? And you would just be like, oh, now you're a pirate. Urgh. Or you'd give them mohawks and stuff like that. You'd be like, yeah, look at that. That's how we learned to draw details on things. You just have to have fun with it. If you want a scar, just draw it. Draw a line. If you draw an empty line, like with a little bit of white inside, it's going to look like one of those scars that, leave you like a white scar. If you make it full, it's going to look like a full scar. It's going to be up to you. Like, what type of lines do you want to leave? It's going to look like a tattoo if you give it like a stylized look. Right? So each one of those lines can have a lot of meaning, can have no meaning, can have an indication of depth. It can be an indication of detail. It could be a tattoo. Right? It can be anything you want. It's your art. You don't get to do it wrong. There's no wrong. There's just maybe not exactly calibrated to what you wanted, but there's nothing wrong with what you do. And if you're not aiming to make a mistake, you're probably doing something quite awesome, and you just don't give yourself enough credit. You do. And if you're not aiming to make a mistake, you're probably doing something quite awesome, and you just don't give yourself enough credit. Can you please show mouth in different types of teeth? We can totally do that. All right, let's see. Are we running low on space, though? Because if we do, we have to get to 20,000 likes to flip to the other page. Yeah, I'm going to start charging you guys with likes. Do you guys think these pages grow on trees? Huh? Well, yeah, they're paper. You know what I mean. Did you guys ever catch your parents on like a logical fallacy like that when I was little? When I was little, I would do that all the time. My dad would hate it. Because I was a smart ass. I've always been a little smart ass. So every single time that I have like a choice. Oh, have I drank water? Yes, I have drank water and coffee. And had a muffin. Fuck yeah. Yeah, full breakfast right there. Okay, so you guys said faces, right? Let's do faces. No, wait, no. You guys didn't say faces. Face detection? Like, what do you guys want? What do you mention? Let me go scroll. Can you please show mouths? Oh, yeah. Mouths are easy. I can show you how to draw mouths in this little tiny square. And you will know expert level drawing of mouths. And it's like the size of like 4 thumbs. You guys ready? Yeah? We can do expressions on the next page. So the mouth, the human mouth, is an opening much alike the eye. It's just an opening that opens and closes. It just has a little bit more movement, a little bit more muscles on the side. The eye only has an eyelid, right? And that's the muscle that opens up and down, goes up and down. We have cheek muscles that pull our mouth also in a different direction. So we have a slightly extra curvature to that design. But it's very similar to the eye, just with a little extended area. If you draw an eye and you overlap the top line, you have yourself a mouth. You don't have to do much. Okay? At all. If you draw an eye from the side, right? That becomes your mouth as long as you just do negative space. You don't have to overthink it to be able to understand it. So the concept of the mouth is 2 overlapping lines over a rounder surface. So what we do to facilitate all that is we draw a teardrop in the middle of our face. Midline to teardrop. The teardrop gives me the width of my nose if I divide it into 3. And it gives me the width of my mouth, which I can just draw as one line in a little overlapping line that intersects it. Just don't draw the intersections. Those curvy lines can be anything you want, any 2 directions. The same direction gives you a different look. So you can do that in any variation you want, and then you're going to get mouths. If you open the line more, you have access to more open mouths. And the beautiful thing of this is that as your mouth opens, right, as you open your mouth more, you tend to have more of the jaw dropping and stuff like that. But that's cheated because as long as you open this up, this would see less of the chin. So you're removing the chin as you open your mouth. So you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to adjust this at all. It's a really, really fun optical illusion. And then to generate the rest of the head is small circle, big circle. That's it. Small circle, big circle. And now you have yourself a whole structure for your head. Lutunes, what's up? Hello, Rodgon, requesting poses in 3-point perspective. In 3-point perspective? Why would you want to use 3-point perspective for that? Like, you mean forced perspective? Like, you want to draw things in perspective being forced? Stop thinking about it like 3-point perspective and stuff like that, because that's going to complicate things. You're not a building. Right? If you want super forced perspective, learn to draw foreshortening, not necessarily points of perspective that would be used for a building, because otherwise you're going to get really rigid shit. Like, you're going to get this. You're going to end up with very similar to a skyscraper type of situation, and you're going to be segmenting things into little sections, right? Which is going to give you a very robotic look. It's going to be a very static look. Instead, learn to move your poses and your shapes in space so you can draw perspective anytime you feel like, and you can just move them around and scale them up and down to generate the more forced ones. It's the same concept as the action line. I don't like not to say that I don't like doing it, it's just inefficient. Detailed teeth. So now that we discovered one line, intersecting line to create a mouth, remember that has to be a thick line and a thin line. If you don't combine a thick and a thin line, it's not going to look like that, okay? If you draw two thick lines, it's not going to look good. It's going to look like just a void, like a big intersection of lines. If you draw two thin ones, it's the same concept. The moment that you draw a thick one and a thin one, you're creating what I like to call the illusion of volume. If you do that again, thick and thin, you can draw even more detail. The volume of the lip gets indicated by the thicker line, and the top line of the lip doesn't really have much depth. You normally just see a change in coloration. So you draw it thin so it doesn't stand out. By doing that, you can generate lips of all kinds, okay? Now, the teeth should not be detailed really wide either, because if you draw anything wider than, let's say, the thin line that you drew on the bottom, you're going to end up with a gap in your teeth. And nobody likes to draw gaps in all your teeth. Maybe one or two would make it look like a silly character, but if you draw every single one of them like that, they just look like a cracked out, like, pipe smoker. Okay? So draw the lines thin, very thin, or almost non-existent. You don't have to draw it, just draw the negative space. It's going to be more likely that that's going to look better. But if you do have to draw teeth, let's draw some teeth. Teardrop is going to represent the anatomy for us, right? This is going to be our nose canal. And this is going to be our mouth, which is going to contain our teeth. Okay? This is our teeth and our chin. So this is essentially the concept of your teeth. They go up and down into like little tiny circles, round at the top, flatter at the bottom, and they interconnect with each other going around your shape. You have an upper teeth and you have lower teeth. Okay? Your nose and stuff like that come on top of the nose canal, and your mouth tends to be over this. Okay? But the mouth doesn't have to cover the entirety of the shape. You can just draw a little tiny thing. You just need to know the teeth are there. You don't have to draw something super complex because the teeth are normally not seen. So whenever you're drawing teeth, all you have to know is that they're going like that. Most of the time, you don't need to do much to generate depth, except make a thick line and a thin line. And then whenever you're drawing your teeth, at least you know that your teeth are there. So whenever you do open your mouth or whatever, you have an indication of where they're supposed to go. It's kind of hard to mess up something when you know that there's something that's supposed to be there, right? You draw a head with two eyes for a reason. Why do we draw an eye? Like, why do we draw iconic faces like this? Why don't we draw this? Or why don't we draw two mouths? Right? We learn a very basic concept of spacing and things that we have, and then we progress. Right? As long as you understand that there's something in between your eyes, aka the nose, you wouldn't draw them too close together because now you need space for your eyes and your nose. If you understand the spacing from your eye to your ear, you'll understand what is supposed to be there, right? But if you don't spend your time thinking about how big that section is or what it is, how you connect it to the next parts, you're never going to understand it. And it's about one eyebrow and eye socket away from the other one. Boom. Whenever you're drawing a character and you draw an eyebrow, round that out to a circle, and then about one of those is going to be your ear, and then one of those obviously is going to be to the other side, the rest of your face. So logic, mathematics, and just simple calculations can help you immensely. Oh, we're at 23,000 likes. Okay, we're going to go to facial expressions next. So if you guys want to learn that, you guys should get me to 35,000 likes. And then I'll teach you guys a super cool concept of, again, the snitch to draw facial expressions. Learning how to draw facial expressions doesn't have to be hard. It's just explained stupidly difficult. Again, like everything else that it seems. Like, people just like to overcomplicate the living hell out of everything. When in reality, it can be a lot simpler than people make it. This is good advice. And I know, it's like I'm a teacher. Happy, sad, angry, and confused. Those are easy. Happy, sad, angry, and confused are all expressions that you can do with very simple lines or even straight up 3 lines. I don't need any more than that just to express those emotions. Can you do sad? We were drawing sad eyes the other day. We were like, cry me a river, cry me a river. Dun, dun, do, 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 do. I don't know how to draw eyes. I think that I was looking for, with the emotion, with primarily how the cheek are working in the mouth. See, that's a different thing. Now you know what to ask for. Because I can show you the emotion without having to show you any details. And that's kind of interesting, huh? If you can do that with that, do you really need to draw all those details of the cheekbones and stuff? Interesting, huh? Shh. You don't need to. Most of the time, you don't need to. But I'm going to show you anyways. Did we get to the number? No, not yet. You guys are quick, though. You guys are super quick. You guys normally get there in like a couple minutes at the most. But this technique allows you to draw different shapes for the eye space and It allows you to control where your eyebrows and your cheekbones go immediately. So it's very easy to be able to manipulate this little tiny shape to different specs and come up with an infinite amount of facial expressions. Bro, how can you draw so effortlessly? See, the thing is, this isn't effortless. This is effort that accumulated over 20 years of drawing. It looks easy because I discovered how to move my hand and how to use the pen pressure and how to use the materials and how to use the knowledge that I've been studying my whole life, right? That's why it seems easy. It's not easy though. It's hard. Like I will challenge anyone to do what I do as easily as I do. I've seen a couple people that can do it. I know there's a guy called Mallow Art, Mexican dude too. Yeah, Mexican pride. That guy draws a really cool anatomy effortlessly too. And it's kind of cool because he likes to do a lot of mathematical equations as well, right? So he does a lot of it through math and he goes more for portraiture. But I still think I have him in speed. I don't think anyone has me in speed. I'm close to being one of the fastest cartoonists that you can possibly find. Like, I have ventured with caricature artists. I have been around cartoonists, animators, storyboard artists, production designers, character designers in general. And I am just quick. I'm not just quick, though. I'm quick and efficient because of my fundamentals. I have studied this so extensively that I'm kind of like the Karate Kid, like Mr. Miyagi. I've done wax off so many times, and like my hand just does it naturally. I really want to be a fantastic artist in the future, then learn circles. Learning circles inside of circles and doing them consistent is the key. This is the key. People don't think so, but learning how to do a consistent circle and learning how to do circles inside of it is what teaches you all this stuff. Believe it or not, that is exactly what teaches you all this shit. From perspective to volume to depth to detail, all that stuff is just circles. I think it's just at actually learning the fundamentals has such a steep... No, it does not. It does not have a steep learning curve at all. Within a single hour of spending time with me, I could make you so proud of what you can already do. It's stupid. You just have a very negative mentality right now because you've never seen that progress. You've never seen somebody just be like, oh, here's what you do with what you have been doing your whole life. Let me show you. Let me make you proud of what you have been doing your whole life, right? Like if I taught you that a circle is all you really need to draw, let's say, a face, that'd be kind of cool, right? Draw a little circle inside, and then touch the edges with circles like this, like a little golden snitch. This is going to be where your little teardrop comes in. Eyebrow line, nose, mouth. Okay. You have access to drawing the eye if you touch this center ball, and then you build out from there. Okay. Then you have to connect here to the side of the head. And then a very simple rule for learning how to turn them around. Small circle, big circle. A big circle touching a small circle to the side of the head will give you your temples. If you do it in this direction, you get a front view. If you do it the other way, you get a 3/4. The ear falls right at that intersection. And then the neck comes from the bottom of the ears. So we're going to do that a bunch of times so you guys can see how easy it is to just draw a head from a circle. Okay, you don't have to do anything else other than draw a circle, draw a little circle, and 2 more circles as big as you want your eyes to be. The teardrop can be as big as you want it. Let's make it really big so you guys can see what happens. Small circle, big circle. Let's make those circles smaller. Let's see what happens, okay? Circle. Let's make them smaller. I have access to drawing every type of style that I could possibly want by just learning to draw a circle and keeping a very easy rule of small circle, big circle, just to understand the proportions of the rest of the head. So now you're telling me that this has to be a skill that you have to be born with? This is hard? It's not hard. It's just explained very difficult to you. You've been trying to learn this probably blind or through people that have had a lot of success being natural born artists. Naturally born artists make shitty teachers. Okay, because they don't understand the struggle that you need to go through to be able to understand these things, right? This is too big of a forehead. If I need smaller forehead, I can just make it smaller from there. Sketch it, right? Pay attention to the mistakes and you won't make them out the next time. So I made the forehead too big, so I need to make the shapes of the eyes a little bit bigger. Okay. Drawing heads from circles in any direction can be as easy as drawing a big circle and a little circle, connecting them and drawing a teardrop. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to over-design it. You don't have to over-engineer it. This is essentially the whole concept behind it. You can apply this to a billion different ways, but you have to just learn the concept. Big circle, little circle. Connect the tops, the bottoms align, and you get your ear. And learning to draw your neck in different positions comes from this big circle anyway, so you just draw that neck in any direction you want. No more, oh no, I can't draw the bottom of the jaw. No, okay, you want to draw your head in different positions? Cool. Draw a circle, a teardrop, and 2 circles on the side, and you have yourself access to drawing even the most difficult positions. Okay? You don't have to over-engineer it ever again. It's a lot easier than we think. Hello, just curious, what do you find the most difficult to draw? Recently? Anything that I have to sit down for more than like 10 minutes to finish. I have very little patience for rendering out designs. Not that I don't do it. I like doing it when it's very peculiar, like pinups or some sort of thing that I want to do for myself. But I very rarely finish sketches just because I know what it would look like finished. So in my brain, that's good enough, right? I don't have to see it finished. I don't have to wait until I have a whole illustration to imagine it done. I'm like, oh, that would be okay. That'd be kind of cool. And I just don't finish it because I just don't have the time. But I like having the concept there in case I ever do want to go ahead and finish anything. I have many, many ideas that I can just go ahead and make into things that I can make money with, or I can apply to different companies with. I have a bunch of sketches that I can just finish and apply to Disney or any animation studio if I ever needed the job, right? If I ever needed it, I can just put together a bunch of stuff, create like 20, 30 different portfolios, different industries, production, print, manufacturing, and then just send it in and be like, hey, there you go. Hire me. That's the beautiful part of it. Like once you understand that you can, you are very selective about where you spend your time doing it. My pens and sketchbooks come in today. Woohoo! Awesome. So, does that head thing make sense? drawing a shape. Now, it doesn't have to be that little tiny thing. You can draw that anywhere in the shape, anywhere. It doesn't have to be at the bottom, right? That's just going to rotate your head around. Okay, now if you draw that shape in any direction within the structure of a sphere, now you'll be able to move that head around. So practice on a circle. Practice doing this all over a circle before you move on to anything else. And just know that wherever the edge of this circle would be, that's where the big circle would be. Okay? Wherever this touches, that's where the edge of the head would be. Sometimes on both sides. And sometimes the head, the circles get wider, depending on if you want to make the head a little bit wider at the top than at the bottom, right? So if you make it wider, you're going to get yourself a character that has a wide head. If you make it narrower, you get a character that has a narrower head. This is going to be variables that you can change in any way you want to generate a billion different characters, okay? But they're all going to be connected in the same way. Kind of like if you would be doing this whole concept that you've probably been doing most of your life, right? But actually understanding what these points are, right? When you start like this, sometimes it's kind of difficult to understand the curvature of the shapes and stuff like that. So don't do that. Start with the basic head of your skull and then draw a little teardrop. This is going to give you your nose, your mouth, and you can draw the circles outside of that. It's going to make it a lot easier to understand how your jaw connects. You're going to learn a little bit more about how your neck connects, because you're not going to think of this as your jaw structure all the time, right? It's different. Your jaw structure doesn't work like that. This is more akin of your entirety of your neck and then your jaw structure being inside. That's how this should be working a lot more than not. But a lot of people taper that stuff in. They go like this and then they do this, right? When they do that, they're essentially bringing in their neck, but they don't know how to connect it. So they end up just lost within the structures of these little boxes they draw. So avoid it. Sometimes you have to see things a little different so you can progress. You can always go back to this later on when you understand it. How do you draw full body? I'll show you in a second. Rodgon just drew a sentient thumb. Can you make a funny character with a huge head and a tiny neck and tiny limbs, but with big hands and feet? All right. So you want a character that has a really big head, a little tiny neck. So we have to find the ears first, right? If we find the ears and we find the body, you said tiny body. So let's draw a tiny body. Yeah, I'll draw a little tiny body, like a little tiny one. This has to connect to my collarbone. So I have to draw a little collarbone so I have a place to connect it. From here to here, it has to connect. If I connect it in a straight line, it's going to look like shit. Right? So I have to taper it in to find that connecting point, but that's also going to go behind my head structure. So that's why it's going to look like it tapers in like this, but it's not going to be floating. Okay, I can draw my two big circles in one little circle, or two little circles, one big circle for the sides, and a teardrop to generate the rest of my head. If I make the circle bigger, it gives me space for extra space for the eyes and stuff. So I can draw really big eyes. Okay. Now the limbs, you said you want really big arms and really big hands and really big feet, but the actual extremities wouldn't be very long. So let's draw that, and then we'll draw really big feet and really big hands. So the hands themselves can be any size they want. As long as, again, they connect back to my construction. If I can draw my construction right, I can draw anything I feel like with any amount of detail, and it's going to look right, even if the proportions aren't necessarily right. or not, I wouldn't say the concept of right or wrong, but it's more so like the stylization that you want to achieve. Right? But if you meant more like a little chibi character, you would draw a big head, little tiny bodies, and then you would draw little tiny figure nines. Figure 9 and bring it back in. Whee. Figure 9 and bring it back in. Figure 9, bring it back in. Change the position of all your things in any way you want. Chibi characters are stupidly easy. Like ridiculously easy, and that's a big reason why people like drawing them. Because they don't have to really think about much of the anatomy. They just draw little tiny figure 9s and then you have access to doing it. Draw really big circles for your eye sockets and a little tiny teardrop, and you have access to drawing those proportions a little easier. See what I mean? I get stuck on feet. Well, I mean, I guess we're all standing on our feet. We get stuck on them sometimes. I'll show you how to draw them. I gotta do some filming today. Today I'm gonna be doing some classes for my academy. And today I have to do the 3 major character design tropes, right? So I gotta explain how to draw chibi characters really easy, in all sorts of directions and all sorts of poses, like how to learn how to move them around and how the proportions work and stuff. Then I have to teach people how to draw more general size characters for like just average animation with about the head size, about the same size as the body. And then the next generalized trope is having the head be considerably smaller, creating more of a comic bookish type of illustration. So I have to distinguish those 3 biggest tropes in showing how my measurements of creation of anatomy lead themselves to each one of them. So that's going to be my lesson that I got to teach today. Well, not teach today. I got to record it so I can have it ready by Monday. Do an astronaut. Well, I'm not hearing please. Fammy, you need to be nicer. You have to ask nice things. If I just go, do this for me. That's what I hear whenever somebody doesn't say nice. Right? If you don't ask nicely, I don't do things. And then a lot of people wonder like, oh, why is it that you don't do things when people post them on the chat? It's because you guys are demanding. Whenever somebody's demanding or it comes off as demanding because they don't ask nicely, I just go, nah. So, when it comes down to feet, understanding how feet can go from a little simple shape like this, right, to something like this is very easy. 1, touch the points together with a circle. Okay. 2nd, bring the bottom of the leg in through that circle and overlap it so that you can create your ankle bone. Step 2, create the bottom of your feet. 1 lump, 2 lumps. Okay, so you have this basic shape. You follow this around to create the ankle on the bottom. And then you go 1 lump that's about the size of your leg, like to the ankle, that's your ankle bone. And then you have your knuckle line for your feet. Then from there, you have your toes. So you go 1, 2, and then the top just connects like so. You go up onto the circle from the bottom. This is relatively straight at the top. Right? So another cool trick that you can do is just draw little circles at the bottom of your feet and divide them into 3, and you have one of them as your toe, the other 2 as your big little toes, and then just connect them back to your foot. For a very simple for a very simple type of shoe or foot. So you just want to reference them, but you don't want to detail them. And then if you want to detail them more, you have to understand the pattern. So the ankle is going to connect like such. You're going to have a slight curvature up for your ankle. Okay. Then you're going to divide this into 3, and it's going to taper slightly up. Okay. One of those is going to be your toe. The other 2 is going to be the rest of your toe, so you can just block them in. Overlap a little line. Overlap a little line to create depth. And then the top arch of your foot overlaps over your ankle. So from a front view, that's what you're getting. When you're simplifying it and you're drawing quickly, it tends to be more like this. You just simplify it really quickly and create little overlaps with tiny little lines. A lot of the times, drawing a lot more detail, it's not really necessary. Even if you are drawing more realistic stuff, a lot of the times you can get away with drawing very minuscule lines to just represent the detail instead of having to sit there and draw every single pore. All right, another question. This is making me want to be an artist. It's a difficult job. It's not easy to be creative all the time. And I mean all the time. You don't get to choose, oh, I don't feel like it today, Mr. Marvel. I don't feel like drawing your comic today. Can I do it tomorrow when I might feel more motivated? You're fired. Aw. I don't feel like animating today, Mr. Nickelodeon, Mr. Cartoon Network. Can I possibly take the day off and maybe go back tomorrow when I feel a little bit more motivated? Fired. Right? Like, you don't get to choose when you get to be creative. That is the problem with being an artist and not understanding that when you decide that you want to go into it. You don't get to do what you want 90% of the time. You're not going to get to draw your comic most of the time. You're going to get paid to do somebody's brochure, logo, animation, marketing campaign, or something like that, because that's what artists normally get paid to do. Very rarely, and I say this very, very, very much like with the notion that I know that most people want to pursue this, but they never fucking do. Most people never pursue their own thing. Okay? And that's the most scary part of it. You all feel so elated by working for a company. You feel like that's going to be the dream, and that's the problem. The thing is, you're not going to be valued or cherished the same way that you are cherishing that company. The way that you are expressing value and love for that company, an animation company that you've never worked for or even know how they treat their employees, most likely, is incredibly akin of somebody that's a fanatic of religion. Okay? You want to do it regardless of what the outcome is. You will want to work for them, right? It doesn't matter if they treat me bad. I can rough it out for a couple years. I can be an intern. I'm paid intern for a certain amount of years. Yeah, I can do that. Maybe if I have a job on the side, blah, blah, blah. Look at how crazy that sounds. Right? How crazy does that sound? That you're willing to sacrifice things that should be given to you just to work for a company. It's really, really interesting to me. And I'm fascinated by human behavior, so I study this stuff just for fun. Right? I study how people behave, how fanaticism can grow into almost like a cult-like love for something that is not even understood. Because most people that go into the animation industry, they go into it without understanding anything about it. They just see the cartoons that they watch when they're little, and then that's the drive. That's the pull. Right? Oh my God, I watched Pokemon when I was little, so now I want to draw things for the Pokemon company. I played a lot of Mario, so now I want to blah, 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 blah. You want to do something, but you don't understand the job. Most likely than not, you don't even know how much someone gets paid. Much less if you can make a living with it. right? The problem with a lot of artists is that they go into things out of passion without thinking about it even a fucking second. I'm not telling you not to pursue this. I'm just telling you to be really smart about it because you're not going to get do-overs. If you go to art school, for example, and you pay $100,000, guess what you got to do to pay that back? You have to do art. Right? You have to do art to pay it back. You don't get to pay it back with magical fairy dust. Right? You don't get to pay it back with an imaginary successful job later on that you don't even know how much it's going to pay. So understanding your industry is much more important than being a part of it. Because if you don't understand it, you're just going to financially ruin yourself trying to pursue a dream that you never really understood in the first place. So let me help you avoid that by giving you that little tiny bit of heads up. By understanding what you're getting into, now maybe you have the ability to adjust that, right? Now you don't have to think about art school like, oh, that's going to be where I learn. No. That's where you go to network. Imagine art school as your master's degree, right? You learn to do the thing so that whenever you go to art school, you have the biggest amount of possibilities to stand out. That way, you already are experienced in the field that you're trying to do, even remotely, so that whenever any competitions, any industry like internships, anything comes up, you immediately take them, right? Over the people that just signed up to art school, which is most people, by the way, without understanding anything. Or even having a remote amount of like knowledge about what the job entails. You'd be surprised the ignorance levels in the world of animation and illustration and everything, because it's not ignorance through with the will of being ignorant. It's ignorance through people manipulating the situation, sales reps, sales agents, people that are recruiters for the schools. They're the people that essentially hustle the students and the kids to getting all these $100,000 loans to go to these for-profit schools that don't end up giving you any sort of education that you can use. So be careful where you end up putting your investments, because you're investing in yourself. Okay, you're eventually investing in yourself, and you have to make that money back yourself. Ideally, right? I'm just saying, if there's a rich lady out there wants to be my sugar mama and just wants to buy my studio and shit, you know what? Hey, what's up? But just saying, being an artist is not always what people expect. And it's a highly glorified job that a lot of people do not understand or would even like if they understood what it takes to be a part of them. A lot of the times, you don't know what industry you're getting into. You just find out later on and you're like, oh, wait, no. That's not what I wanted. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this. But being ill-informed keeps you from being able to know that. Okay? Not taking the time to do your research, not taking the time to just talk to people from that industry, for God's sakes. Just talk to an animator. They're willing to talk. They might be creatures of the dark, like not going out if they don't have to, and like they don't like the sunlight and shit. But we talk to people, and we are more than happy to help you understand what you should and shouldn't do, because we don't like people suffering. Right? Most of us, I'm not going to say all of us, but a lot of us don't like people struggling through the same shit that we did. Right? Because it's hard. And that's sad. It's really hard and sad whenever you see somebody that's so like wanting to be a part of this creative world, but they just don't have the tools for it. So being able to understand all that stuff like is just critical for being able to learn how to create things from your head, how to animate, how to 3D model, how to sculpt, how to do all that stuff. So all these lessons aren't necessarily just for people that want to draw. These are lessons that are going to teach you how to see a little bit better so that you can create a little bit more free. Well, yeah, I'll save this one live. I'm not gonna do any music for a while. I'm trying to see if like there's a slight shadow ban in my account for some reason. So I'm helping, you guys are helping me by clicking that like button, by the way. Literally just break through the whole like shadow ban. And I have a feeling I know why it is. I got one of those like scammy people that are like, will you draw my picture of my daughter? I will send you this much money. And I always like to fuck with them, right? I like to see what crazy like ways they're trying to like scam people now, just so that I can tell people and like inform them so they don't fall prey to that crap. And they're getting really sneaky. This time around, I was like, okay, you only have the ability to, I only have PayPal, so you can only pay me through PayPal. And because I was like, and only friends and family because I don't offer refunds. And they're like, okay, cool. And then they sent me, what? A PayPal email saying that the payment had not been gone through, that now I have to refund the seller. And I was like, and I was like, fuck you, loser. I'm reporting you. He's like, no, not before I report you. So I have a feeling that's why. All right. And then when TikTok looks at this fucking thing, they don't give him. They didn't give him a warning. They didn't do anything, even though I sent screenshots of the whole conversation and everything. So be careful out there. Be very mindful of people that want commission pieces from you, and they're, if I have this much money available for me, will you do the picture of my daughter? I want it as an NFT. I want to have it, blah, 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 blah. We probably have all received it or will receive one of those emails. Don't fall for it, okay? Just ignore them. It's not worth pursuing, right, at all. And you're going to get scammed if you are even remotely gullible, okay? They're getting pretty damn tricky. They're getting pretty damn sneaky too. So just be very mindful as to who you're responding to, what links you click on, you know? People are very smart nowadays, and they can take advantage of you really quickly. So be like Rod, be a cynical, old, grumpy old man that does not listen to anybody, does anything for no one else, and just sits in his house and draws all day with his puppy. Be like Rod. The ones that I get all the time are, I want to create a logo for your stream. Oh, really? Yeah, people get a lot of different ones. Just be mindful. Just be very careful. You don't want to just be caught into like those Nigerian prince schemes. Do not be a Michael Scott. That's all I'm going to say. So eventually, you do these guidelines so much that you don't really need to draw all those guides anymore. You'll know that, for example, the edge of the nose is going to guide me to my teardrop. So I don't have to draw the edge of that circle anymore, right? I know where it goes. I know my mouth. Unless I choose to make it bigger than this, my teeth are not going to show. This is the edge of my teeth. So if I draw my mouth bigger than that, guess where the negative space happens? Right? So being able to understand the mapping points for my anatomy isn't necessarily just to be able to draw super cool, dramatic characters for comic books. It's more so about just learning how to do that and being able to manipulate the anatomy to the stylization that you want. At one point, you have to be creative. Right? So if that's the limit of my teeth, if I have a Joker smile, right, I have to adjust my drawing around that. Does that make sense? Right? So being able to manipulate your shape up and down in space becomes a little bit easier as well. I'm not saying easy completely, but it's going to be easier. Because now you just need to draw a circle and a teardrop, and you have yourself a head in a separate direction. Okay? Overlap a line, and you have yourself a head. You don't have to overcomplicate it. Oh, you want 3/4? Draw another circle. There you go, slide 3/4. Boom. the teeth always fit in the bottom. Curious because they ever go out. What do you mean if they ever go out? Like your bottom teeth can go out if you draw a pronounced jaw in the bottom. Like if you draw your bottom jaw a little bit bigger, you could draw your bottom teeth sticking out. If you draw your teardrop and then you just overlap it a little, then you have access to drawing your bottom jaw over your upper jaw. So you can draw like rednecks, cavemen. So you don't have to keep the mouth the same way. You can do the same thing on the opposite. You can just bring it in so you have an overbite. Right? Can you show how these guides would apply to animals? Oh yeah, that's stupidly easy. Oh, stupidly easy. So you know how you draw a circle, right? And we drew a circle for the head. Now, instead of the teardrop going down like a human, we're going to draw that teardrop forward. Now you have access to drawing things like animal anatomy. Now, that can be any size you want. So if you draw two circles, let's make something with a really big forehead like a mouse. I'm going to make that circle smaller. Give myself a bigger forehead, and I have myself a mouse. If I want something like a dragon, I would make that circle on the top, and I have the equivalent of the anatomy that I need for something different. Okay? Two circles can teach you how to draw most animals. Anything with a skull, really. Anything with a skull can be drawn like that. Birds, horses, dolphins, sharks, right? All that stuff can be drawn from two circles. Because it's just a skull. That's all you're representing. It's just skulls of different types, different sizes. And once you understand that, I mean, the playground is open. Oh, you want to learn how to draw these from the front? Okay, check it out, okay? So we drew this, right? Circle and a circle, right? And then we drew this. Now I'm going to take this little shape that I drew, I'm going to bring it inside. I'm going to overlap it. And I'm going to leave that circle there. I'm going to draw one more circle where that nose is pointing. I'm going to give myself a slightly more frontal view. And the more I overlap this shape inside, the more I have a frontal view. So you have your big circle and your little circle. So any shape divided into four, draw a little, whatever the size of the nose is, and that can be moved around in different directions. The nose, the top of the nose will always point to the eye. Okay, this, even with humans, the top of the nose is normally going to point to where the eye is. Okay, that's a very natural occurrence with animals and with humans. Why? Because of the natural way our anatomy fits. Okay, that's just the way our bodies work. Anything from a bear to a crocodile is going to have that happen. You're going to get that little divot because that's where the cartilage separates from the skeletal system. And that happens in all species that have a skull. They just do it a little bit different. So what did Pancakes ask? Are there any special considerations for doing expressions? Not really. I mean, a lot of the times when you want to do expressions on like animals, you have to think of the way that you do expressions on humans, right? If you're going to have an angry animal, you're going to need to draw your eyebrows angry as if it was a human. If you're going to draw human like happy, you can apply those to animals as well. Okay? A lot of the times, the only difference is the mouth. Maybe it's not going to be in the direction that you want because animal mouths are not as expressive as human mouths. Incredibly well explained. Thank you for sharing your amazing talent with us. You're welcome. So now let's see. We have to think of a cover. What are we going to use as a cover for today's thing? So I'm going to start doing a little cover screenshot because I always get tired of scrolling through the damn things until I find a good screenshot. So what should we do for a screenshot today? What did we talk about the most? We talked about heads and stuff like that, right? So yeah, maybe we'll use that as a screenshot. There you go. Zoom out a little bit. We'll use that little section right there. There you go. Screenshot time. Boom. Done and done. All right, this video will be on YouTube within the next 2 hours, alongside with some shorts from it. So if you guys feel like revising what you guys learned today and you want to learn a little bit more, come back and join me next time. We try to be around the same time from 9 to like 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning. And then later on at night, I'm trying not to do the music ones because I'm trying to see if the shadow ban is that or the report. So we're not going to do music for a couple of weeks. Maybe, I don't know. I like the music, so I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll put on headphones. But we're going to be drawing tonight again, maybe later tonight, and I'll teach you guys a couple things. Maybe we can sit down and draw in the Book of Bernie a little bit more so we can try to finish more of this story. This is one of the coolest things that I've ever done in my life, and it's just a bunch of really cool concepts based on a comic that I want to eventually build. And I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to see layouts in my brain. Right, I'm starting to see how these will come together and starting to put them together like a little panel, just alongside all the other ideas will eventually lead to a full-on comic. Or at least a concept that I can use to pitch the idea if I want to pitch it as an animation or a concept for anybody else. They'll be able to know what I know and what I want to create by paying attention to all these concepts based directly on this one topic. So, consistency over time. That's how you get results. Love you all. See you guys next time. If you guys go out and do something weird and crazy like drink, be careful. I want to see you guys again. Okay? Talk to you guys next time.